Okay, hello everyone. There was a slight technical problem with the chat, so I had to open a new live stream. I hope everyone who was there came here as well. Welcome everyone. And today I am going to do something that I've never done before, which is do a reaction video to another YouTuber, and a rather big YouTuber in this, let's call it leftist space, anti-Zionist, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist space that I also belong to. I guess I'm a YouTuber or whatever. And before I begin, I just want to say, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to join my Patreon and support my work, I know that I haven't been very active recently. I will discuss this a little bit later. I plan that this will be the start of a renewed activity in the channel. And one of the reasons that I was not active recently is that I felt like something was blocking me. And I spoke about this a little bit in the last live that I did like 2 weeks ago. And there are a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons is that I have a hard time expressing my thoughts honestly, openly, accurately, about certain topics. And I saw Bad Empanada's video. I saw it come up a couple of days ago, and then last night I watched it together with Tamal, my girlfriend, and we had a lot of thoughts, and it was so connected to all the things that were blocking me. And I was like, okay, this is a good opportunity to raise the discussion about these topics, and to go beyond this block and to continue my work as before. So what I was saying is, if you want to support my work, you can join my Patreon. This is the link to my Patreon, just the Hebrew Canaanite on Patreon. And this will help me continue doing what I do. But again, even if you don't want to do that, you're welcome to just like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment. If you're watching this video after the fact and not live in this live stream, you can comment on the video. This helps it promote it in the YouTube algorithm. And yes, hello everyone. I see 30 people here. I'm glad that even after all this time that I was inactive, people still remember and want to hear what I have to say. So welcome everyone. I'm feeling a little bit better in the last few days. I feel like there is a start of something new. But before I get down to business, I want to say that I'm a little bit scared of what I'm going to do now. Because I'm going to react to Bad Empanada. And let me say, the first thing that I want to say is that in general, I agree with what he says in this video. In general, I agree with most of what he says about Israel, Zionism, imperialism, the USA, leftism, and so forth and so on. But at some points, I feel like he is not being completely accurate, or I would say things differently, or he's missing some nuances, or he needs to go deeper, or it's not very clear what he says. And I'm going to say some things that are critical of him also, okay, or of what he says in this video, and this scares me. So before I went live, I had this vision of Bad Empanada doing a video and reacting to my reaction, and saying some really nasty things about me, and then all the comments, who is this guy? He's just a liberal Zionist. He doesn't understand anything. He's fake. He's stupid. Blah 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 blah. I don't think that would be justified, but I don't know. I had this like fear, okay, that this would happen. I don't think it's a justified fear, okay? And this is why what I want to say before I even start is that I'm not trying to start an argument. I'm not trying to take down Bad Empanada. I'm not trying to fight with anyone. What I do want to do is have a discussion, because I think that the subjects that Bad Empanada raised in his recent video, Dear Anti-Zionist Jews, are important subjects. And one of the reasons that I know that these subjects are important is because they have been bothering me for several months now. And this video gives me an opportunity to speak about these subjects in a way that is more concrete, okay? That is more in context, okay? Instead of just rambling on and on and on. So hopefully, Bad Empanada, you will see this video. Hopefully, Bad Empanada, you will appreciate what I have to say to you. You will appreciate my point of view as an anti-Zionist Jew, okay? And I will elaborate on the difficulty of even saying what I am and where I'm coming from, and this is part of the subject. Hopefully, you will react to this. Hopefully, you will want to have a true discussion, a deep discussion, go to the nuances of this subject, because I think that understanding these points is a central part, not the central part, not everything, but a central part of understanding Zionism, of understanding oppression, of understanding anti-Zionism, of understanding how to dismantle the Zionist project in practice, and how the Zionist system works, which is, of course, a big part of dismantling a system, is understanding how it works. Hopefully this will lead to a fruitful discussion. I will say honestly that probably he will just ignore what I'm saying, not even watch it. But if you know Bad Empanada, if you want him to react to what I have to say, please send him the link to this video. I tagged him in the title of this video. Maybe this makes him look at this video and listen to what I have to say and want to react. Do you even know anti-Zionist Jews, Bad Empanada? I don't know. Have you ever spoken to someone who was born into this cult, the Zionist cult, and went against it like I did? Do you think it's a good idea to have this discussion with me? If you want, let's continue. Okay, so these are the main things that I wanted to say as an introduction. And yeah, let's start. So I'm going to share the screen. Is a bad empanada a very cooked empanada? No, I don't think empanada is cooked quite yet. I think he's fine for now. Okay, so hold on, let's see. How do I do this? See. Okay. Looks good, right? Okay. Yes, I know that empanada is a type of food. I was making a joke of my own, because cooked in internet speak means like, I don't know, means like you're done. You're not appreciated anymore. You're cooked. Dusty seems to have a lot of problems with Bad Empanada. I don't know why. If you can write in the chat what your objections to him and what he has to say are, you can write some stuff in the chat. I don't necessarily condone what you say or agree with what you say. I follow I'm subscribed to Bad Empanada's channel. And let me say very honestly and openly that Bad Empanada and his videos um, were a big part of me taking one of the final steps to becoming a true anti-Zionist. Okay, I watched his videos about Israel. I think it was mid 2023, and this really, and I was already going through the process of releasing myself from the last remnants of liberal Zionism that I had in my consciousness. Let's be honest here. Probably I still have some or even a lot of remnants of liberal Zionism in my consciousness. This is a never-ending process. But watching his videos, the historical context and his arguments, and the way that he uses arguments, this was very influential for me. And I remember, it's a funny story. I was watching Loner Box, okay? And watching Loner Box was also a part of my process, because Loner Box talks a lot about the history of Palestine and the history of the Zionist project. And now he's 100% a liberal Zionist, but back then he was better, okay? And he helped me as well. But he had something against Bad Empanada. You know, they were rivals, and he kept mentioning Bad Empanada as someone you shouldn't watch. And then at some point he mentioned him one too many times, and I was like, okay, I gotta check out this guy Bad Empanada. I gotta see what he's about. And I started watching his videos, and then in like a few weeks I binge watched most of the videos on his channel, and especially and specifically the videos about Israel and Palestine. And this really helped me. This gave me one of the final pushes that I needed to become an actual, proclaimed, self-aware, public anti-Zionist. Okay. Let's start watching the video. So the video is titled "Dear Anti-Zionist Jews." So at least supposedly the video is addressed to me, right? I'm an anti-Zionist Jew. So when I titled this video that I'm that I'm doing now, the live stream that I'm doing now, I wanted to say that I'm an anti-Zionist Jew. But that's one of the first points that comes up here. Am I a Jew? Am I? What does it mean that I'm a Jew? This is a very important point, okay? You know what? Even before we start, let me just say what I think about the question of whether I'm a Jew or not. Here's a fact. I never felt any connection to the Jewish religion. Whenever they told me stories from the Bible, whenever they took me to synagogue, whenever they did like ceremonies, when we had to go to, I don't know, a funeral or a wedding, or holidays, and there were Jewish religious elements in what was happening, it always felt completely foreign to me. Okay, maybe let's the screen after. Maybe I will take the stage now, and we will go back to Bad Empanada soon. I never felt a connection to this. I was an atheist for as long as I can remember myself. My mother told me once, I remember, that she remembers me being a 4-year-old boy and telling her, "Mom, I don't think there's a God." I was a geeky, nerdy, annoying 4-year-old. and now I'm a geeky, nerdy, annoying, almost 40-year-old. Um, and already back then, I didn't think that there was a God. And I still don't think that there's a God. I still don't. I don't believe in any religion. I don't believe specifically in the Jewish religion. I don't feel any connection to Judaism. It all seems very weird and ridiculous to me. And at this point, that I'm more politically aware, I can say that the Jewish religion, like any organized religion, is an oppressive, hierarchical structure that uses imagined ideas to obtain control, to oppress, okay? Like many other structures, okay? Like capitalism. Capitalism also uses imagined ideas to obtain control and to oppress. Patriarchy as well, Zionism as well, okay? Human supremacy as well. All these structures of hierarchy and supremacy use bullshit, made up bullshit, manufactured bullshit, in order to obtain control and to oppress and to exploit and to create these hierarchies. Okay, so I'm against Judaism. I'm against Judaism, but I don't know if someone does believe in God, if someone wants to practice a religion in their private lives, if someone thinks that this brings them happiness or peace or whatever, I guess I will still argue with them. I will still say I would. I don't anymore because I don't think that it's beneficial in any way. I when I was like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I used to argue so much about this. I used to spend hours upon hours upon hours on Facebook and other platforms, and also like IRL, arguing with people about religion in general and about Judaism specifically. Okay, I would have a lot of arguments. Okay, then I grew out of it. Okay, I was like, okay, doesn't matter so much. But so I would still argue with them. I would say you're wrong. Okay, I would say you're wrong, and I would say it's not a good idea to believe in God. It's not a good idea to practice any religion. Okay, this is my position. Okay, but I don't think that anyone practicing a religion in their private life is such a big deal. Okay, maybe it's damaging them personally. Okay, but it's not hurting anybody else in a tangible way. The problems start when we speak about religions that are institutionalized, okay, that are organized, and then you have a hierarchical structure, and you have the use of these ideas to oppress and to control, okay, and then this connects with patriarchy, this connects with capitalism, this connects with states, this connects with Zionism. Okay, the thing is that once an idea is bad, it can be exploited very easily to promote even worse ideas. And this is one of the points that I'm going to go deeply into in this video. I'm going to explain why Judaism and how Judaism, I don't think it's such a unique and new point to make, insight to make, but Judaism was exploited for the Zionist project. Okay, of course this happened. I think Bad Empanada will agree with this as well. And one of the reasons that Judaism was able to be exploited for Zionism is that it's a bad idea. Okay, is that there is a lot of BS in Judaism, specifically the idea that Jews are in some way special and superior to others. This is baked into most versions of Judaism, and I'm only saying most here because I don't know. Okay, maybe there are versions of Judaism that do not promote this idea that Jews are somehow special, unique, and superior. Okay, but because this is baked into Judaism, to the inherent structure of Judaism, this was easily exploited to create Zionism, which, like Bad Empanada says correctly, is based on Jewish exceptionalism and Jewish supremacy. Okay. Um, Salty Horse is saying Reform Judaism is nicer. Okay, but also liberal Zionism is nicer, right? I don't know if a less bad version of something bad is good. Okay, Okay, so okay, but I haven't finished explaining what Judaism means, what being Jewish means to me. Because there's another side to this. There is the internal thing that, okay, I don't feel Jewish in any internal way. But there are some external things, okay? So let's start from, let's peel the layers one by one. The fact is that I was raised in a somewhat Jewish environment. I wasn't raised in a religious Jewish environment, but I was raised in a culturally Jewish environment. Secular Jews, okay? Oxymoron, okay? Which all of this is oxymoron upon oxymoron upon oxymoron. This is what makes it so complicated. But I was raised in a culturally Jewish environment, okay? It started when I was 8 days old, and they circumcised me. Which means that they maimed me, okay? They took away a piece of my penis. This is what they did when I was 8 days old. Imagine this. Imagine this. My parents, who are not religious in any way, who do not believe in God, took me, their firstborn son, when I was 8 days old, when I was innocent, when I didn't understand the world at all, when I was helpless, when I could not defend myself, and they gave me to a guy with a beard and a hat and a suit. And the guy with the beard and the hat and the suit took a knife and he cut off a part of my penis. This is something that happened. And to be honest, I don't know how to deal with it to this day. This is so fucking normalized in Jewish society. This is so fucking normalized in Israel, even amongst secular Jews in Israel. You would be hard-pressed to find a Jewish Israeli person who is not circumcised. Also in America, yes, it's it's I don't know, it's crazy how normalized it is all around the world, but in Israel it's just like Jewish Israelis, even if they are militant atheists, they would circumcise their son. My nephew was circumcised, and I didn't go to the bris, to the circumcision. I didn't go to this event. But I had a thought that maybe the moral thing to do would be to go there and to take my nephew and to run away and to not let them do it to my nephew. And to be honest, it would have been the moral thing to do. The only problem with it was that it would not have worked, is that they would put me in prison and take my nephew and do it anyway. This is the only reason that I didn't do it. The moral thing to do would have been to save him, my nephew, my 8 days old nephew who got his part of his penis cut off too. So Tamar is saying, so basically you're saying being Jewish is not just an identity someone chooses for themselves, it is something others put on you, and then you have no choice in the matter. Yes. So when I was 8 days old, they circumcised me. And then they raised me in a Jewish environment. I celebrated Hanukkah and Passover and Purim and I don't know, Tu Bishvat and Rosh Hashanah and Shavuot and all these Jewish religious holidays with my family. and I know all the songs, and I know the Haggadah, like the text that you read in the Seder at Passover. I know it pretty well because I did it like, I don't know, 30 something times with my family. My mother tongue is Hebrew, the language in which the Bible, the Jewish Bible, was written, and the language in which a lot of Jewish scripture and Jewish thought was written. My name is in Hebrew. Alon means oak tree in Hebrew. And so forth and so on. So Judaism is a part of my identity, whether I choose to or not. It was forced upon me. And now let's go to the most outer layer, which is that a lot of people who are not Jewish, a lot of people who are Jewish, and a lot of people who are not Jewish would look at me and say, this guy is a Jew. And they won't ask me, are you Jewish or not? Do you believe in this religion? Do you define yourself as someone Jewish or not? They don't care. What they will say is, you're Jewish. Why? Because your mom was Jewish. Why? Because you were born Jewish, because there is some essential inherent quality in you that is Judaism. Is it in the genes? I don't know. I think scientifically that makes no sense. I think that was scientifically disproven, that there is some kind of Jewish gene. Why? I don't know. But here's another fact. This is just a historical fact that Jews around Europe in the first part of the 20th century, a lot of people who were, ethnically Jewish, whatever that fucking means, whatever the fuck that means, people who were ethnically and culturally Jewish started saying, no, I'm not Jewish, I'm German. I'm not Jewish, I'm Polish. I'm not Jewish, I'm whatever. Doesn't matter. They didn't want to be Jews. They assimilated, okay? They were secular people who didn't care about Judaism at all and rejected Judaism. But the Nazi Party did not care about that. They were sent to extermination camps anyway. So, of course, this is the most extreme version of this, but they were discriminated against anyway, even if they rejected their Jewish identity. So what I said now is unfortunately a point used by the Zionist project, by Zionist propaganda. What I just said is something that Zionists use to justify Zionism, okay? So what I just said, I don't believe that it justifies Zionism. I don't believe that it justifies any of the things that Zionism is doing, okay? That the Zionist project and that the state of Israel and that Zionists and that Israelis and that Israeli Jews and that Jewish people around the world are doing and saying. I don't believe it justifies it. But it doesn't mean that it's not true. It is true that you can reject the identity that people decide that you have as much as you want, but if people insist that this is your identity, and if people want to oppress you because they believe that this is your identity, they can do that. So this is what I think about being Jewish, okay? What it means to be Jewish to me. My desire is that we live in a world where all these identities, Jewish, Christian, black, white, Indian, I don't know, Mexican, Chinese, Russian, man, woman, gay, straight, trans, bi, human, cow, I don't know. All of these identities, I don't want them. I don't want any of these identities as something that is beyond, matter-of-factly, something that is said matter-of-factly. Okay, he has Jewish heritage. His skin is darker. She is female. Okay, he is a cat. Whatever. Okay. like just facts. Okay, factually, this individual has these characteristics. This individual has these characteristics. I want to live in a world where all these identities are, they don't matter as much, and certainly not an excuse to oppress and to be oppressed. Okay, this is what I want. But I must admit, I must acknowledge that I live in a world where these identities matter a lot. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. Where if you are born male and you want to, you are the identity of a man is forced upon you by our patriarchal society. And if you say, no, I don't feel like a man, then you will get a lot of violence. Okay, so this is, the tricky part about this. What does it mean when you say that someone is a man? What does it mean when you say that someone is Jewish? What does it mean when you say that someone is Italian? What does it mean? What does it mean? Okay, it can mean something benign and it can mean something very malignant. Okay. And with that in mind, let's start watching Bad Empanada's video and react to it. Okay. So tell me if you hear this correctly.
So-called anti-Zionist Jews, because sadly, a lot of anti-Zionist Jews
maybe let's watch this a little bit more clearly. Let's do like 120. Okay. Let's start.
I want to make a clip here, just a clip for so-called anti-Zionist Jews, because sadly, a lot of anti-Zionist Jews get like hurty feelings and talk about how, guys, I'm really not comfortable with this anti-Semitism in our movement and stuff. Just
okay. So already the first question comes to mind. Is he talking about me or not? This is the first question that I asked myself when I saw the title, Dear Anti-Zionist Jews. I was like, is he talking about me or not? I don't know. This was the first thing that came to mind. And I think after watching this video, I think he's not talking about me. Okay? I think he's not talking about people who are anti-Zionist and happen to be Jews in the sense that I elaborated now. I think he's talking about so-called anti-Zionist Jews. I think he's talking about quote-unquote anti-Zionist Jews. Okay? That's like, I think he's talking about people who have made, he maybe says this explicitly later, he's talking about people who made their identity being anti-Zionist Jews. Okay, so we will elaborate soon.
Sadly, something that a lot of them do a lot. A lot of them tend to focus very much on themselves. A lot of them tend to seem to be in the movement more so because it's like a rebellion against their own community. I mean, it makes them feel rebellious and special, and especially because they're given special treatment among the movement just for being Jewish for some reason.
Okay, he said many things. I need to dismantle, to deconstruct this. Okay. JVP, yes. He gives the, towards the end of the video, he gives the explicit, specific example of JVP. He's talking about JVP, for example. And let me say this up front. I agree with his criticism on JVP, okay? Just, I don't like JVP either. I don't like the vibe. And I don't like what they're doing, and I think his criticism is on point regarding JVP. But already he said several things, and I want to deconstruct this. So the first thing that he said is that one of the reasons people, Jewish people, like to call themselves anti-Zionist is that it makes them feel rebellious and unique and special. Okay? I don't deny that this is the case for many people, for many so-called anti-Zionist Jews. I don't deny this. But I think, and this will be a theme going forward, I think that it's more nuanced than this. I think whenever someone does something, okay, anything, especially when what you do is like activism or trying to make the world a better place, I think that it always has two sides, okay? One is the side that is like honest and like you honestly do it, you honestly care. And the other is the more narcissist, selfish side that's like about image, okay? I don't think that this is necessarily a problem. If this were necessarily a problem, then I think no one would ever do anything good ever. Like we would have to say that nothing anyone ever did was good. I am reminded of an episode of Friends where was it Joey who said to Phoebe that there's no such thing as a selfless act, that everything everyone ever did was selfish, and then Phoebe goes to Joey and she tells him, maybe I got their roles reversed. Please tell me if you remember this episode. And she tells him, I let a bee sting me. And then Joey says, you know, the bee died right after, right? So that's a silly joke, but I'm correct. Okay, Tamar knows Friends very well, so I trust her. So a deep philosophical question raised in an episode of Friends. Okay, can you do something that's truly selfless? I think it's just a fact that you cannot do anything that's truly selfless. In everything that you do, there is an element of selfishness. Okay? Why? Because we're organisms and we care about ourselves. Every time you do something, quote unquote, good, it's also to maintain and strengthen your image towards others and also towards yourself, that you are a good person. But the question is, where is the emphasis? The question is, what percentage is the true good act, and what percentage is about our image? Okay. And I think, you know what? Okay. So, okay, my mind is already racing forward, so I will try to slow down. Okay, so I think it might be that a lot of these anti-Zionist Jews really have a part of them that truly cares, that sees the Zionist project as an evil project, that sees the oppression that the Palestinians are going through, that sees the ethnic cleansing, that sees the genocide, that sees the horrific stage of the genocide that has been happening in the last more than 2 years, that sees the supremacy, that sees the pain, that sees the suffering, that sees the murder, that sees all these horrible things that are happening. And I think that they truly care. On some level, they truly care. But they also have this other part that's high on themselves being righteous. Okay? How do I know this? Because, honestly, I have this part too. And you know what? Bad Empanada has this part too. And everyone has this part. When we're doing something good, we also feel that we're good people. Is this a problem inherently? No. It's good that people will feel good when they're doing good things. When does the problem start? The problem is when the point of emphasis shifts from the actual doing of the good to feeling good about ourselves. When this becomes the point, when this becomes the center of things. And I think that the second part of what he said, that the movement, and we're going to talk about what is this movement, what movement is he talking about, okay? But it is true that the movement to free Palestine, the anti-Zionist movement, the pro-Palestine movement, props up anti-Zionist Jews and pampers to their ego. It is true. It's a true thing. You know how I know this? Because I felt it. And in many points in the last couple of years, when I've been doing this, when I've been speaking up against Zionism publicly, as a Jew, an Israeli Jew, we will talk about what Israeli means soon. A lot of people told me, oh, you're a good Jew. This is like the most blunt example. Oh, you're one of the good Jews. And I hate this, by the way. I hate being called a good Jew. But I got a lot of compliments. I got a lot of compliments from people, and my voice was amplified sometimes as someone who is an anti-Zionist Jew. And I really felt it happening in my mind, like this, like I felt myself, I felt the opportunity to get high on my own, there's an expression in Hebrew, עלה לו השתן לראש, the piss went to his head. Like being high on your own farts. I felt this as a possibility. I felt this starting to happen. And I know that I had to do something actively to stop this from happening. I had to tell myself, look, you're just part of a movement. Please just do the things that are required to help dismantle Zionism, to help bring liberation, justice, and equality for everyone between the river and the sea. This is the goal. This is what you're trying to do. Do this. Don't get high on this, on the compliments that you're getting. But this is tricky. Why? Because, as we will elaborate on later, there is an inherent isolation to being Jewish, to being Jewish Israeli, to being Jewish Israeli living inside Israel, and going against the Zionist cult. There is an isolation that's happening. Much of this channel has been dedicated to talking about this process of isolation. So, if you feel isolated, you are weak. If you feel isolated, you cannot act effectively. You feel depressed. You feel powerless. You feel angry. You feel alone. You feel like you can't do anything. So the support of a movement from outside is something that really helps you. I know that it also helped me. I know that when I posted a video and I saw a lot of comments supporting me, this was a very important and effective counterweight to all those Zionists giving me shit here, okay? And whenever I posted something in Hebrew on Facebook, okay, because I wrote in Hebrew on Facebook a lot. Well, for years I did this, but especially I wrote every day. I wrote like 5-6 posts in Hebrew on Facebook between 7th of October 2023 and, let's say, the beginning of 2024, where I just decided that this is just not helping. Okay, so I got a lot of hatred. My friends, my family, people, just random people saw me writing in Hebrew against Zionism, writing explicitly anti-Zionist things, and I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of like, really, my friends are not my friends anymore. So when, on the other side, I got a lot of support from people around the world who saw was the genocide and were on the side of Palestine and therefore supported me, this was helpful. This helped me continue doing what I was doing. So, it's tricky. It's tricky. How do you take the good? How do you take the support? How do you take the support as something that helps you continue doing the good things that you want to do and not let it go to your head? It's difficult. It's difficult. Okay? And I'm still working through this difficulty. Okay, and this leads me to another point. That I will raise this point later. Let's continue. Let's continue with Bad Empanada's video, and I will get to all the points. I have a lot to say. You see, it's very complicated. There's always two sides to this. Like every point has a couple of sides that both need to be discussed. Let me say something now. Already I'm feeling weird. Why am I talking about myself so much? Why am I talking about myself so much? But I don't know. I think it's important to talk about myself here because the things that I'm experiencing are so they're related so intimately to how Zionism operates, to how systems of oppression operate in general. Okay? So I think it's important to talk about this because I think if we don't work through this, we're not going to come out from the other side, and we're not going to be able to understand how the system works, and we're not going to be able to dismantle it. Okay. First time here, what have I wandered into? You've wandered into the channel of an anti-Zionist person. Hi. Who was born into the Israeli faction of the Zionist cult and went against Zionism and is now speaking against the Zionist cult openly and publicly. Hi, welcome. And I hope you like what you hear, and I hope you learn from what you hear. Okay, let's continue with Bad Empanada's video.
Reason we'll talk about that more in a second. So they're not so much in it because they want to free the Palestinian people. They're a lot of the time in it as like this bizarre, like special identity thing. It makes them feel fuzzy inside. It makes them feel different. You know, that's the
Okay. So I think Bad Empanada would agree with me that the problem starts when the emphasis is on the fuzzy feeling inside. Fuzzy feelings are okay, but when you make it the main issue, then it starts becoming problematic. Let's continue.
It's the wrong reason, okay? It's detrimental, in fact. So I want to make a video specifically talking about anti-Zionist Jews. Now, I shouldn't have to do this because the concept of an anti-Zionist Jew shouldn't exist. What do I mean by that? Do I mean that Jews can't be anti-Zionist? Of course not. What I mean is that specifically being an anti-Zionist Jew is just a bizarre thing to identify as. You know, Zionism is a Jewish supremacist movement based on massacring people, not just Palestinians, you know, Lebanese, Syrians, stealing their land, giving it to Jews for the benefit of Jews. You know, you're not special if you're Jewish and you oppose this. It doesn't really make much sense for there to be specifically people who identify as anti-Zionist Jews. And you see this all the time. Like, when you see an anti-Zionist Jew, you're more likely to know immediately that they're an anti-Zionist Jew because they'll fucking tell you all about it, you know?
Okay. So again, a lot of things. And here's my problem with Bad Empanada, okay? Here's where my criticism is when I have to emphasize that I'm criticizing Bad Empanada here. What are you saying exactly? What are you saying exactly? Because I can interpret what you're saying in several different ways. Some of them I will agree with completely, and some of them I will disagree with heavily, okay? So the anti-Zionist Jew identity is stupid. I agree. If you make being an anti-Zionist Jew your identity, that is silly. Okay, that is silly. It shouldn't be your identity. But you know what? If you make anti-Zionist your identity, then this is also stupid. Anti-Zionist is a position, not an identity. Anti-Zionist is a political position. What does it mean to me that I'm an anti-Zionist? Okay, let's deconstruct this. It means that I recognize that there is a project called Zionism, okay? That this project is a colonialist, imperialist, oppressive project based on ethnic supremacy, based on ethnic cleansing, based on theft, murder, rape, pillage, and genocide. And that, therefore, this project is bad, and that, therefore, this project should not exist. And that the Zionist project should be dismantled completely and immediately. This is what it means to me when I say that I'm an anti-Zionist. This is what it means. I have a position. I believe something about reality and about morality. Okay? There's an is claim here, and there's an ought claim here. The Zionist project exists and is this and this and this and this, and it ought to be dismantled completely and immediately. Political position. It's not my identity. And it's not what I am. If you ask me, what are you? Would I would I say anti-Zionist? No, no. It's just a position that I hold. By the way, it's not the most important position that I hold. The most important position that I hold, by the way, is the position, or let's say a more important position that I hold is a wider, deeper position that I'm against all forms of oppression. Saying that I'm an anti-Zionist is just a corollary, is just something that is a special case of me saying that I'm against all forms of oppression, that I recognize that patriarchy is an oppressive system, therefore I'm against patriarchy, that I recognize that capitalism is an oppressive system, therefore I'm against capitalism, that I recognize that states and organized religion and I don't know, all kinds of other systems are oppressive systems, and therefore I'm against them. That I recognize that human supremacy and the Holocaust that humans are imposing against all other animals is an oppressive system, and therefore I'm against that as well. Okay? This, to me, is summed up when I say that I'm an anarchist. But is me being an anarchist my identity? No, it's not my identity. It's a political position. What are you? I'm an anarchist. No. No. And some people make being an anarchist their identity. And that's problematic. If you take a political position and make it your identity, then that's problematic. If you take religious beliefs and make them your identity, then that's problematic. If you take your profession and make it your identity, then that's problematic. You know what? If you take anything and make it your identity, then that's problematic. Okay? I have a political position, which is the anti-Zionist position. I have a political position that is the anarchist position. I oppose all hierarchies and I oppose all oppressive structures. And I want all oppressive structures to be dismantled completely and immediately. This is what I want. This is my goal, or one of my goals. Okay? So I think that when someone makes being anti-Zionist their identity, then the problems start, because then it's more based on because when people make a political position their identity, I think that this connects with them trying to feel good about themselves. Okay, I think that then the emphasis goes from I have this political position and I'm working towards promoting the goals that this position implies, to, oh, this is me, look at me, I'm an anti-Zionist. Look at me, I'm an anti-Zionist Jew. Okay? So I think saying that making anti-Zionist your identity is problematic within itself. Making you being Jewish your identity is problematic within itself. And I think making being an anti-Zionist Jew your identity is problematic squared. Okay? It's problematic in two different interlocking ways. Okay? And if this is what Bad Empanada is saying, then great. But there is also something else. Okay? Look, I feel that me being an anti-Zionist carries some, I don't want to say special, but different significance from other people being anti-Zionist. Okay? Let's look at the comments. Okay? I saw some comments, and I think that this is a great way to... Hold on. Where are the comments? How do I look at the comments? Hold on. Here. I am a white person and I am not a white supremacist. Everyone must praise me for this now. Of course, if someone believes this when you exchange white for Jew, then this is ridiculous. Okay? As a Muslim, do I need to label myself anti-ISIS? And will I get the same praise? Yes, I agree with these points. Okay? I agree with this. Okay? This is a good point. Okay? You don't get more credit for being an anti-Zionist than a Jew. Okay? But it's not the same. Being white is not the same as being Jewish in this world. There are differences, just differences of circumstances here, okay? Zionism is a cult. Zionism is not just, Judaism. Okay. This is so complicated. Okay, I need to think about how to say this precisely, because this is one of the most important points, and this is one of the most important points of disagreement that I have with Bad Empanada and his fans here. Or just, I think that we need to make this more accurate. Okay. Judaism has been hijacked by the Zionist project. This is just a historical, factual reality. And this created a not cult-like structure, but a cult. A cult. Zionism is a cult, and we need to acknowledge this. It's not the same as whiteness. Whiteness is not a cult. Okay? Zionism is a cult. And unfortunately, this cult is so powerful that it took over almost all Jews all over the world. There are historical circumstances that led to this unfortunate situation. The persecution of Jewish people around Europe and around the world, mainly in Europe, okay? In the 19th century and the first part of the 20th century were a big reason for this. The interests of the Western Empire that the Zionist project served, not accidentally, but by design, are part of this historical process. Okay? We have to acknowledge that there is a historical process where the Western Empire made the Jewish, I'm saying the Jewish people, created the Jewish people as a people, convinced them that they are persecuted. By whom, by the way? By the Western Empire, by Europe, by white Europeans, okay? That they are persecuted, and that the only way to stop being persecuted is to agree to be used as a tool in the hands of the Western Empire, which is Israel, which is the Zionist project. Israel is a big military base, a big cult in the heart of the Middle East, Western Asia, in the heart of an Arab population, to promote the interests of the Western Empire, in this area. So what we have now is a cult, and it's a cult that you don't just join. It's not like Scientology. That I think even Scientology is no longer this. I think it's not something that attracts you. Okay, that goes join us, and then you join. And then you become part of the cult. It's a cult that you're born into. I was born into the Israeli faction of the Zionist cult. I think at this point, a lot of people are born into Scientology as well, because it has been around for so long. I don't know. I don't know so much about Scientology, but I do know that a lot of people, that all Zionists, all Zionist Jews today, were born into the Zionist cult. They were born into it. I was born into it. At 8 days old, I was initiated into the Zionist cult. How? They cut off a part of my penis to initiate me into the Zionist cult. And leaving a cult is fucking hard. Seeing that it is a cult, seeing through the system of propaganda, deprogramming yourself from this propaganda, seeing reality for what it is, and going against it is fucking hard. And I don't want to toot my own horn, But I must acknowledge that I am in a unique position. There are not many people around the world who were born into the epicenter of the Zionist cult and who went against the Zionist cult and became anti-Zionist, that is, came to the position of anti-Zionism like I did. It's just a fact that something is different about me. And this puts me in a unique position. In a unique position within the movement. What is the unique position within the movement? Is that I am, in some sense, don't tell the Mossad, okay? But I am, in some sense, a planted agent inside the cult, okay? My mother tongue is Hebrew. I speak Hebrew, not just fluently. This is my mother tongue. This is my first language. I know Israeli culture from the inside. I know the Zionist cult from the inside. I know how Zionists think from the inside. I know the operation of the Zionist cult from the inside. Someone who is a 48 Palestinian has a unique position as well, because they know the Zionist cult from their own angle. Someone who is a Palestinian living in the West Bank or in Gaza has their own unique position. Someone who is a Palestinian in the diaspora has their own unique position. Someone who was born into the evangelical Christian faction of the Zionist cult has their own unique position. And I have my own unique position. And because so few people are like me, it gives me a very important historical role. And I'm trying as much as I can, and I hope that people see this, and I hope that people appreciate this. I'm trying as much as I can to step up to this important historical role as someone who was born into the epicenter of the Zionist cult, to the front lines of the Zionist cult, and who's trying to go against the Zionist cult from this position. Okay? I don't think that I should be propped up because of this. I don't think so. I don't think that I should be given a higher position within the movement to free Palestine because of this. I don't think this. But I do think that that when we want to dismantle the Zionist cult, it is very important to understand how the Zionist cult operates, and therefore it's very important to listen to all the different voices intently and seriously and honestly. This is what I think. And I hope that Bad Empanada agrees with me on this point, that in this sense, I am special, okay? And that anti-Zionist, okay, so anti-Zionists who are Jews are also special, okay? Because, okay, so there are factions of the Zionist cult, not just in Israel, but also in Jewish communities all around the planet, okay? Jews in Germany are also part of the Zionist cult, a lot of them. A lot of Jews in the United States are part of the Zionist cult. And if someone was born into the US faction, the Jewish US faction of the Zionist cult, look how complicated it is to even say this, okay? They also have a unique position. People who were born Jewish American and went to Taglit, for example, to birthright, and know the inner workings of this system of indoctrination called birthright, they have a unique role in exposing this. And it's very important that they do this, and it's very important that we listen to them as people who were in this position and know the inner workings of this. Otherwise, we will not understand how the system operates, and we will not be able to dismantle it. The point is, Tamar is saying, it's not about narcissistic satisfaction. Look how special I am. It is important to understand the enormous forces that make people support atrocities. Everyone should realize it could happen anywhere to anyone. Yes, very important point by Tamar. Tamar, is it okay if I talk about you and your special position that you were born into, just briefly? I think it would be okay. So Tamar was born into the Jewish Dutch faction of the Zionist cult, and she had a system of indoctrination, just a little bit, and she had a system of indoctrination that worked on her from the moment that she was born. And I had a system of indoctrination that worked on me from the moment that I was born. And we know how the system operates, and we know how one can liberate themselves from this system. Why? Because we did this process. And we hope that other people who are in the Zionist cult can learn from this experience. And we hope that other people who are going against this cult can learn from this experience as well. And this is one of the main goals of this channel. Okay? Okay. Let's continue.
On their social media, they're going to tell you about it at least 5 times. They can't not. Like, a lot of them have it in their fucking usernames. It's bizarre, honestly. Like, Jewish anti-Zionist. I'm super Jewish and I'm super anti-Zionist. There's a really great Eli Valley comic about this, by the way.
Okay, so I agree with him that if you make it your identity and you start talking about it constantly, then this is weird and counterproductive. But again, there's another side. If I say I'm an anti-Zionist and I don't mention that I was born into this position inside the Zionist cult, I feel like I'm lying. If I don't say, this is okay. Whenever Elik and I would open an episode of the One State Solution podcast, we would start with the proclamation, we are anti-Zionists, even though it says Israel on our passport and it says Jewish on our Israeli identity cards. Why? Because I think if I don't say this, then people would rightly feel like I obfuscated some very important piece of information here. I was born, okay. I'm not just speaking abstractly about the Zionist system and the need to dismantle it. I'm speaking from a very specific position inside this Zionist system. I was born into the privileged position of a Jewish Israeli inside the Zionist system. If I don't mention this, if I don't make it very clear that this is the case when I speak about Zionism and when I speak about me being anti-Zionist, then I feel like I'm being dishonest. So of course you can harp on about it and make it such a big deal that it becomes exhausting. Okay, but you need to mention it. So Vanilla Alt is saying, own it, don't celebrate it. Simple. Yes, good. Own it, don't celebrate it. Yes, a good summary.
Valley. Let me just show you Eli Valley. He's a long time, very
okay,
much.
So this is, I don't know.
Is because otherwise I wouldn't have known. Here's a great comic that is how this rehearsal. I love being Jewish. It's
like, I think it is cringe when people make being Jewish their identity and always talk about how Jewish they are. I think it's cringe at the very least. Okay, let's continue.
It's so edgy. I could talk.
You know what? Jewish, but also, it's hard to blame them. It's hard to blame them because I know for a fact. Okay, I wasn't born as a Jewish person outside of Israel. Okay. But I do know that when you are a Jewish person outside of Israel, you are surrounded by people who are not Jewish, and your Jewish identity is being emphasized all the time in this, external way that we spoke about before. Okay? And then it puts you in a very weird and awkward position where it's like, okay, so what do I do with the fact that I'm Jewish? Okay? I'm sure that a lot of black people in the US, a predominantly white country, would not want their blackness to be such a big deal, but they are being reminded that they are black all the time. How? By general society oppressing them and discriminating against them. Okay? So Bad Empanada is going to say something that I somewhat agree with, that the Jewish identity is not as materially oppressed as other racial, racial identities. Okay, this is a true statement. But still, when you are a minority, there is something that happens. You feel different. You feel estranged from general society. And then you have two options. Either you try to assimilate into general society, or you go deeply into your own identity. And I think that this is a very natural and common process that's happening. To me, the way to mitigate this problem, to solve this problem, is to make all identities not so important. Okay? I think that once, okay, imagine you're a Jewish person and you live in a predominantly Christian European country. Okay? Like Germany, for example. Okay? And then December comes around, and everyone around you is celebrating Christmas. And you see the symbols of Christmas all around you. And you and your family celebrate Hanukkah. How will you feel? You will feel slightly different. You will feel like you're not a part of things. You will feel like you have to explain yourself. And maybe this feeling will be reinforced by people from the outside. Let's say that you're a child, okay, and that you're going to school, and everyone around you in school are Christians, and they speak with you in a very natural way about Christmas and about how they're celebrating Christmas, and they want you to speak about how you celebrate Christmas. And then you have to explain, look, I'm Jewish, I don't celebrate Christmas, I celebrate Hanukkah, blah, 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 blah. This is very difficult for children. I'm sure that it's a very difficult experience for a lot of Jewish children to this very day. Not because there is like systemic oppression here, but just because this is the way that being a minority in any sense operates. You feel different and then you feel estranged. And then how will you solve this problem? You will say, okay, so I will go back to my people and I will be with my people and I will make the fact that I'm different my identity, and I will celebrate my identity, and then it becomes cringe. But it's hard to blame Jews for this. I think this is a very deep topic that I can go into. Maybe I will go into it in a future episode, but this is like the beginning of my thoughts about this. And I think that Bad Empanada is kind of ignoring this difficult situation of being a Jewish person surrounded by people who are actively Christian. Okay? Being different is difficult. And I think that this is one of the reasons that Judaism was such an easy target to be exploited by the Zionist project, by the Western Empire, okay, for the interests of the Western Empire, because Jews were always different, and therefore they felt like they weren't enough. Okay, so they had to overcompensate. Okay. Again, we can go very, very deeply into this, but this is just, scratching the surface here.
In fact, I think I will. Oh my God, I'm Jewish. This is how so many anti-Zionist Jews sound. It's just true. I'm not going to apologize for it because it's fucking true. It's bizarre. Why does it matter to you so much?
Okay, so Bad Empanada, if you ask, why does it matter to you so much? I think that this is why it matters to them so much. I think that this is the psychological, socio-psychological process that is happening here. And I think that the solution is to abolish all identities. Okay? This is my proposal.
It comes from like a very like ethno-nationalist, like latent ethno-nationalism that a lot of these people feel for the Jewish ethnicity, and it seeps into...
Yes, and it can become malignant. It can become malignant. It can be co-opted by ethno-nationalist movements and become malignant. I will make an episode only about this. I think that this is one of the most important subjects about racism and reactionary movements against racism and so forth and so on. Okay.
Anti-Zionism as well. And to them, they're anti-Zionism as well, because they have this latent belief, clearly, because otherwise they wouldn't be acting like this, that there's something special about being Jewish. And sadly, the pro-Palestine movement has been like very much hurt by this over the last few decades, especially because we have put these people on a pedestal for being Jewish. We've always
here I agree completely. Okay, I'm not gonna. I don't need to even comment. I agree completely.
for some reason, last 30 years especially, based our movement around Jewish people at its head, which is nonsensical. It's a movement against Jewish supremacy. What the fuck gives these people extra credit?
I agree. This is ridiculous. Jewish people should not have a prominent position within the movement to free Palestine. I don't think that they are superior in any way to any other activist for Palestine, for the freedom of Palestine.
Credibility that we put them at the head of it. In many ways, they put themselves at the head of it in ways that are detrimental. Why, you might ask? Let me tell you. It's very easy to explain. The very basis of Israel is Jewish exceptionalism and Jewish supremacy. This notion that Jews are special. There's something special about Jews that makes them especially meritorious, that makes their suffering especially worrisome.
Okay, I agree with this analysis. I think that it's very, very difficult for people who were born into this cult that hammered into their brain and into their psyche the idea of Jewish exceptionalism so much from the moment that they were born to deprogram themselves from Jewish exceptionalism. I think indeed this is the hardest part of the process of deprogramming yourself from the from Zionist propaganda. Yes, I think that a lot of anti-Zionist Jews still have this core of Jewish exceptionalism inside their psyche because they haven't yet recognized that this is such an important part of the Zionist worldview, of the indoctrination of Zionism, and that even though they can acknowledge intellectually that Zionism, that the Zionist project is a colonialist project, even though they can acknowledge that it's engaging in ethnic cleansing, in creating an ethno-state, in genocide, and in all of these atrocities. They can acknowledge this. They can even say that the Zionist project should be dismantled and so forth and so on. But somehow this basic perception of Jewish exceptionalism is still ingrained inside them so much that they cannot deprogram themselves from it, and they cannot even see this perception inside them. I think that this is a very important point that can be generalized to all kinds of situations of hierarchy and supremacy and oppression. I think that, for example, you can be a man who proclaims himself to be a feminist, okay? You can say, yes, I believe that men and women should be equal. I believe that we should all have the same opportunities. I don't think that men are better than women in any sense, and so forth and so on. I think that we should bring down patriarchy. You can think all of this, but then still you can perpetuate the patterns of male supremacy that are ingrained into patriarchy and that were ingrained into your own psyche from the moment that you were born as a man. Okay? I think that this is the most difficult part to deprogram yourself. Another example, I think that this is, by the way, the example where I think that this is most obvious. When I say, when I talk about me being vegan, this is not a diet. This is not a lifestyle. Veganism is, first of all, the moral principle that humans should not exploit and enslave other animals. And veganism as this moral position, this political position, is a corollary of something deeper, which is the idea that humans are animals who are not superior to any other animals. That is, there is an idea of human supremacy that is driving the ideology of carnism. Carnism is the ideology that humans can and should exploit other animals, especially for food, but also for other means. And this leads to the biggest Holocaust in the history of planet Earth. Okay, so I think that one of the hardest things, I know a lot of people who call themselves vegans, and they might mean that they don't consume any animal products. Okay, which is good, but this is just plant-based. They could also even mean that they object to the idea that humans can and should exploit other animals, okay? But still, deep inside their psyche, they are still human supremacists. They still believe that humans are worth more than other animals. And now I have to give my biggest criticism on Bad Empanada. Bad Empanada is not even vegan in the most, basic of senses. Bad Empanada is one of the biggest human supremacists that I've ever seen in my life. The concept of human supremacy is so present in Bad Empanada's psyche that it's ridiculous, okay? Bad Empanada is a human supremacist through and through, okay? I saw one video where Bad Empanada spoke about vegans, and he said, in his trolling way, that the vegans are right, okay? But for some reason, he still expresses human supremacist ideas in basically every video that he does, okay? So, Bad Empanada, look at yourself and check yourself and see that you believe in human exceptionalism. You believe in human supremacy. And you act accordingly, and you participate in the biggest Holocaust in the history of planet Earth because of your human supremacist beliefs. Okay? Let's go on.
That means that we need to give them a special level of deference that we don't afford to other groups of people, pretty much ever. That's the exact same thing that these Jewish anti-Zionists who emphasize that Jewishness do. They don't challenge this foundational aspect of Zionism. They reinforce it by pointing to themselves as specifically Jews who are against Israel. We are Jewish, and this isn't done in our name. What does that mean? Would it be okay if it was done in your name? If not, then why does it matter? But the implication that you emphasize, when you emphasize that, is that it would be okay if it was. And this, comes to a problem when, it comes to a bit of a barrier when we face the reality that most Jews do support Zionism. So what does it mean?
Okay. Let's let him.
What's the implication of that? Because the implication of you saying not in my name was clearly that if it was in your name, perhaps it might be justified. So when for most Jews it is in their name, what does that imply? It doesn't matter if it's in your name or not. It's wrong. It doesn't matter.
Okay. So I agree with Bad Empanada on this point. I always found the "not in my name" phrase rather cringe. I never used it. Sometimes I used it when I was in a protest and they shouted "not in my name." I would shout back, okay, I would participate. But I would find it cringe, and I agree with what he's saying with what he's saying here. Does it matter if it's in your name or not? If all Jews agreed that the way to protect Jews was to commit genocide against the Palestinians, would that make it right? Of course not, okay? We don't care. This is something that Bad Empanada says again and again and again. It doesn't matter how many Jews support Zionism. Zionism is still wrong, okay? And I agree with that. But there's another side to this. And this is part of a more general phenomenon, okay? That whenever there is an article of Zionist propaganda, it's always wrong in two ways. It's both factually false and also irrelevant. Every single excuse that Zionists give for the existence of the Zionist project and for the actions of Israel and Zionism specifically in the sense of oppressing Palestinians, ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from Palestine, and genociding the Palestinians, is always both factually false and irrelevant. And this is a genius move. This is true about all arguments made by supremacists ever, okay? They're both false and irrelevant, always, 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 okay? Why is this effective? Why is this effective propaganda? Because when something is wrong in many different ways, it makes it harder, not easier, but harder to refute. Because you get confused. Which part should I address and which part should I address first? The part that it is wrong or the part that it is irrelevant, okay? And Bad Empanada is saying correctly, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether Jews support the oppression of the Palestinians or not. He's right. But it's also false that that all Jews support Zionism. It's also false. So it's tempting for a lot of anti-Zionist Jews to say, no, I'm not, I don't support this. If someone tells you that this is done in the name of all Jews, you can tell them, you know a Jew that is saying, no, it's not done in my name. And I think that this can be a powerful tool, okay? But again, this can also become something of a selfish, thing. Like, why are they saying not in my name? Are they saying not in my name because they feel that this is an important tool in the hands of the movement to dismantle Zionism, to refute Zionist propaganda? Or are they saying not in my name to clean their hands and to remove responsibility from themselves, to say, no, I'm not part of it, I'm not part of it, I'm not part of it, I'm not part of it? Are they centering themselves again? Or are they, do they really care about the actual cause? And again, this is always mixed. This is always mixed, and the question is, where does the emphasis lie? Okay, so I agree with Bad Empanada that for a lot of anti-Zionist Jews, when they say not in my name, the main thing that they're saying is, oh, I'm not part of it, I'm not part of it. They're talking, first and foremost, about themselves. Okay, let's continue.
No matter if you're a Jew and you oppose Zionism or not, it's still wrong. Your voice isn't worth any more than an Italian's voice. People are always like, but it's important that we have these people around so they can show that, anti-Zionism isn't anti-Semitism. Well, anti-Zionism isn't anti-Semitism regardless of what these people say or not. We don't need them to...
Yes. Okay. So what I like about what Bad Empanada says a lot of the time is that he wants us to speak about the issues, okay? He doesn't want to speak about identities, but about issues. He's saying correctly that the question of whether anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism is true or false, regardless of what Jews think about it. I agree with this completely. Okay? But again, if someone who is Jewish is saying this, then it somehow carries more weight. Okay? You can say, even Jews are saying that this is... like, you can say, what, are the Jews anti-Semitic? But then the Zionists can say, yes, they are auto anti-Semites. And then you have to go back to the beginning and say, okay, but still, factually, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. So I agree with him that it's more important to focus on the actual arguments and not about who's making the arguments.
Approve of it so that we don't need some token Jew to give us permission to be against Zionism.
I agree.
No, we fucking don't. I reject this premise in the first place. It's ludicrous. If you want to make progress for anti-Zionism, you need to explain that to people without just appealing to a token Jew. Otherwise, you're not getting anywhere because you're not challenging the foundational principles of Israel itself, which are Jewish exceptionalism, which is being reinforced by these people who emphasize their Jewishness. So here's what I want to tell you.
Yeah, I agree that I agree in general that we should talk about things. We should talk about the things. We shouldn't talk about the people talking about the things. We should talk about the things. We should make actual arguments. We should use logic. We should use facts. We should use our intellect. We should use our our hearts and our minds to understand reality and to act correctly within reality. We shouldn't be so busy about who's saying what. This is okay. Let's talk a little bit about identity politics and how. Again, there's a good version of identity politics and there's a bad version of identity politics. Let's start from the bad version of identity politics. The bad version of identity politics is a sort of sometimes it's ad hominem and sometimes it's an appeal to authority, okay, or to identity. Okay, it's a logical fallacy. It's two kinds of logical fallacy in like both directions. Okay, so identity politics can be the person saying this is Palestinian, or the person saying this is black, and therefore it carries more weight. This is like appeal to authority. This is what organizations like Standing Together do, for example. This is what Zionists love to do by quoting people like what's his name, Yusuf Haddad, or son of Hamas. This guy, they love their token Palestinians who speak for Zionism and who spread Zionist propaganda and who get paid very well to spread Zionist propaganda, because then they can say even the Palestinians say this, so it must be correct. Okay, this is bullshit. Okay, and this is a tool in the hands of oppressive systems. Okay, so what I said now is quite simple. Okay, of course, most people understand that just because Yusuf Haddad is an idiot and a shill of the Zionist system promoting Zionist propaganda doesn't mean that Zionism is correct, even though Yusuf Haddad happened to be born Palestinian. Okay, but sometimes it's more subtle than that. Okay, in the case of Standing Together, it's more subtle than that. Standing Together love to use the fact that they have Palestinians in their movement, token Palestinians in their movement, to just say that they are right and to disqualify any criticism just on the basis that their movement has Palestinians in it. Okay, this is I've been commenting on posts by Standing Together a lot in the last few months, and I put up a lot of stories criticizing Standing Together and their both-siding peacenik coexistence approach, which supports the two-state solution and that is actually spreading Zionist propaganda, and that is performing normalization of the Zionist project, like BDS says as well. But the way that they refute what I'm saying is not by actually addressing the criticism that I express, but by saying, but Palestinians are saying this. How dare you? How dare you explain to Palestinians that they are wrong about their own struggle for liberation? Okay, so this is bullshit ad hominem and appeal to authority. Okay, it's not an actual argument. So I agree with Bad Empanada that this kind of identity politics is detrimental and problematic and should not be engaged with. However, there is another side of identity politics that is important. The OG identity politics, the original ideas of identity politics were, I can sum up the claim as I understand it as follows: that if you are on one side of an oppressive system, if you are on the privileged side of an oppressive system, then you cannot understand the true meaning of being on the oppressed side of this system if you don't experience this oppression firsthand, and that therefore we should listen to the voices of the ones being oppressed when they explain to us what this oppression looks like, that we should promote the voices of the oppressed because they are being silenced by the oppressive system. This is something that I agree with completely. But it's very different from the claim that if someone is part of the oppressed group, then they're automatically correct. Okay, this is very different. And the second claim is ridiculous on its face. Okay, like, of course this cannot be true because, for example, many different Palestinians have many different opinions about Zionism and how we should deal with Zionism. Okay, one side of the spectrum is Youssef Haddad, who says that we should do genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza, for example, and the other side is people in Hamas who say that we should resist violently against Zionism. Okay, and they're both Palestinians. Okay, so which one do I choose, or what place on the spectrum am I as someone who is not Palestinian? I cannot just listen to Palestinians and thus determine my position. I just cannot do it. It's not something that can physically be done because there are so many positions, different positions expressed by different Palestinians. Okay.
I want to talk to you about how you can actually be effective rather than a detriment, because many of you have been a detriment for a very long time. There are too many of you who maybe you haven't noticed what you do, but you do it. You know, it might be innocent. You make it all about yourselves.
Yes, I agree that a lot of anti-Zionist Jews do this in a way that is, they're not aware of what they're doing. They're too caught up in their own psyche to be aware of what they're
It's not
doing.
about you. You've talked enough about you. You're not victims. You're not the victims here. You're not the victims anywhere, really. You know, this is not 1939 anymore. Even apart from
but here I disagree. I think, and this is something that I've elaborated on in many, many different videos on this channel, I think that Jews are also victims of Zionism. Are they the main victims of Zionism? No. Do they suffer the most because of Zionism? No. The ones who suffer the most because of Zionism are Palestinians. Okay? But they are also victims of Zionism. I believe this in the most general way. I think that whenever there is an oppressive system, even those who are on the privileged side of this oppressive system are also victims of this system. I think there is a famous quote. I don't remember who it was, but it was a Holocaust survivor, a Jewish Holocaust survivor, who said, he was asked, what would be worse than being a Jewish person in Auschwitz? He said, it would have been worse if I was the Nazi. Okay? And this is a deep statement. Okay? You can say that it's simplistic. Okay? But this is a deep statement that expresses the idea that being an oppressor is also a bad thing to be. This is why I'm an anarchist. This is why I'm against all forms of hierarchy. Even when I'm at the top of the hierarchy or in a privileged position within the hierarchy, I don't like the hierarchy. When I was a TA at university, okay, I had power in the situation, and so I would get like emails from students who would ask me, can I hand in the exercise sheet a few days later? And they would tell me stories about, I don't know, my grandmother died, or I was in the hospital, or blah 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 blah, stuff like that. And I was like, I feel you, okay. This is very regretful, but I don't want to hear about this. Like, it's not this kind of relationship. I would feel very uncomfortable. Okay, I would feel very uncomfortable because I would feel them kind of begging me to use my power to their benefit. Okay, I would always hate being in this position. I would always hate being also in a position of power. I don't like being in a position of power. I don't like being in a privileged position within the Zionist system. I don't like it. Okay? I don't think being in a privileged position in an oppressive system is something good. And we can see how insane and detached from reality Zionists are. And I think that Zionists are suffering in a different way from Zionism than Palestinians are suffering from Zionism. The suffering of Palestinians from Zionism is a very material suffering. But I think that the way that Zionists themselves, Jewish Israelis, for example, suffer from Zionism is a spiritual suffering, okay? And I wouldn't say that it's worse, okay? But it's also quite bad, okay?
From this very weird ethnic solidarity that Jews have that really no other group has in the world, right? Like, if you're an American Jew, this is another thing as well. It's kind of an aside here, but it isn't less important because I feel like it's a big reason why this happens. A big thing that you should do, like if you're an American Jew, you shouldn't feel any specific sense of community with an Australian Jew. What the fuck do they have to do with you? They're from a totally different country to you.
I don't know if that's true. I think it's just a fact that, okay, let's say that I meet someone and I find out that they're a mathematician, okay? I would feel a certain kinship with them because I also know mathematics. I learned linear algebra and calculus, and I know about topology, and I know about symplectic geometry, and blah, 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 blah. And I can talk with them about this. And they know what the world of mathematics is like, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? And I think that being Jewish is kind of like that too. It's not just an ethnicity, okay? It's also a culture. Okay, this is one of the things that are so problematic about this discussion, that Judaism is so many different things. It exists on so many different facets of reality, okay? It's also a culture. It's also a heritage. It's also a tradition, okay? When you are Jewish and you meet someone else who is Jewish, when you say Hanukkah, they will understand what you're talking about. And when you meet someone who's not Jewish, when you say Hanukkah, they will not understand what you're talking about. Grosso modo, okay? Just generally speaking, okay? So there's something that connects Jews from different places that has content. It's the content, okay, of being Jewish, okay, of growing up Jewish. There's something about it. I think Bad Empanada is kind of ignoring a certain nuance here. Of course, he is right that there is also the weird part about it. I do know that there is something weird about like the camaraderie between Jews from different places. There's something, okay, there's something manufactured about it. The Zionist project manufactured something called a Jewish people, okay, which did not exist as such before the Zionist project, okay? Before the Zionist project, all of the content connecting Jews from different places were the kind of things that I mentioned now. But now there's something more. Oh, you're Jewish. You're part of the Jewish people. We are both part of the Jewish people. And this is what makes it weird, okay? So I'm not saying that Bad Empanada is wrong. I'm not saying that his diagnosis is wrong. But I'm saying that he's ignoring another part of it, which should not be ignored.
You know, I don't feel any specific sense of community with someone who's like of Greek descent in the USA. What the fuck do I have to do with them? It's very weird.
Okay, but the fact that you're of Greek descent, you didn't learn Greek, for example, right? Bad Empanada, you didn't learn Greek. If you spoke Greek, if your family taught you Greek when you were growing up, and you met another Greek person who was also taught Greek when they were growing up, then you would feel a connection to them, right? So I feel like you're kind of glossing over some details here. I don't know. I don't know if it's so important.
Like this, and it's very much due to like a very strong sense of like ethnic solidarity and ethnic exceptionalism and ethnic supremacy, indeed, in your,
which I agree that exists,
your community. Other groups of people don't do this.
That's not true. That's not true. I'm sorry. That's not true. I think that if I don't know, a Polish person goes to live in the US and they meet another Polish person who also went to live in the US, then they might feel a certain connection, okay?
And this is certainly part of the root of where this comes from. Like, it's fine to be Jewish. It's fine to have, elements and vestiges of Jewish culture. It's fine to practice the Jewish religion. But when you get to like this degree, like you feel some sense of community and solidarity with some guy on the other side of the world who doesn't share the Jewish religion with you because say he's an atheist, because like his grandma was Jewish or whatever. So he's
okay. So I agree that if it's this kind of thing, then it's weird. But there's like you went all the way to the extreme side of the spectrum to make your point. Of course, your point is true when you're on such an extreme point in the spectrum. But there are other points on the spectrum of these kind of cases that are more understandable. But I don't think it's such an important point. So let's go on.
He's technically matrilineally Jewish, and that's the only thing that he has in common with you is like this tenuous ancestral connection and certain elements of like Jewish culture that he shares with you that like all the same. I share certain elements of Greek culture with some random Greek guy who lives in Macedonia. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? I don't know who that guy is. I couldn't even talk to him if I met him. I certainly don't specifically identify as Greek or ever. I don't consider myself that. And, a part of fighting Zionism is indeed going to be challenging this very weird ethnic nationalism that pervades Jewish communities nowadays.
Okay, so here I agree, and I think that this is a very important point, okay? As an anti-Zionist, I want to dismantle Zionism, right? I want to dismantle the Zionist project. How do you do it? What does that even mean, okay? So it means a lot of different things, but I think that my personal role within this also includes dismantling the Zionist project within me, okay? So I will make an analogy, okay? As a vegan, I want to stop the Holocaust of non-human animals that is inflicted on them by humans. Of course, the first step in this is to stop my own part in this Holocaust, right? Someone asked in the chat, now it's becoming relevant. Can I be a vegan and still eat meat? No, of course not. Of course not. If you have the position that you are against the exploitation of non-human animals by humans, then of course you cannot participate in it. This is ridiculous, right? Saying that you hold a certain position, but not doing the basic things to express this position in your actions is ridiculous. You're just saying stuff at this point, right? Lab-grown meat is a different subject that we will not go into now. It's more nuanced. So in the same kind of vein, if you say that you are an anti-Zionist, then one of your prime missions is to dismantle Zionism within yourself, is to dismantle Jewish exceptionalism and Jewish supremacy, which are two of the most basic principles that Zionism is based on within yourself. You have to dismantle Zionism within yourself. You have to stop calling yourself Jewish in the malignant way. If you were born Israeli, if you were born and branded Israeli like I was, it is very important that you also deconstruct the Israeli identity within yourself. And this is another subject that I want to make a whole episode about. What is Israeli identity? What is Jewish identity? What they mean to me? What it means for me to dismantle them and to deprogram myself from them? It's a whole discussion. But of course, you need to do it.
Which very much is linked to Zionism, because Zionism is ethnic nationalism. So if you're like a non-Zionist who nonetheless very strongly identifies as ethnically Jewish, and you feel this like innate ethnic solidarity with Jews everywhere, it's very easy to get from point A to point B, because these things are very similar. But, that was a tangent. That's not the main thing that
I agree. It was a tangent.
Here to talk about. I want to tell the anti-Zionist Jewish people, here's the number one thing that you need to do to stop being as many.
I'm listening. As someone who is anti-Zionist and a Jew, I'm listening.
Of you unfortunately have been detriments of the movement. Stop you from reinforcing Jewish exceptionalism, which helps the Israeli state, whether you mean to use it in that way or not. One is just be a normal anti-Zionist, as I've been saying. Don't tell everyone you're Jewish constantly. It's irrelevant. I disagree that it's irrelevant, as I explained before, but I do think that if I harp on it all the time, then I'm doing that. Then this is detrimental, okay? But I don't think it's irrelevant. I think it is relevant in some sense, and where it is relevant, I will mention it, I will talk about it, and I will say
how it's relevant, and how I can use the fact that I happen to be a Jew, that I'm an anti-Zionist who happens to be a Jew, in the sense that I described before, to help dismantle Zionism.
Part of the crowd.
Understand and dismantle Zionism.
Just as I am, just as anyone else is. If you are like distinctive, be in the way that like someone like Norman Finkelstein is. You're distinctive in that you have a lot of good things to say. You frame things in a way that is very useful. Basically, you're in the position that you are.
Okay, here I agree.
For merit rather than ethnicity. That's one thing. This is going to hurt a lot of people because a lot of Jewish people, a lot of fairly unremarkable Jewish people love getting deference from the pro-Palestinian movement. They love making it all about themselves. They love putting themselves at the head of it. A lot of them are just here for the ego boost that they get from that. And we need to stop that because it's detrimental to the actual movement.
Here I agree. If this is something that an anti-Zionist Jew does, then this is detrimental. Yes.
This movement is about making you feel good. It's not about doing PR for the Jewish community. It's about freeing Palestinians. And by
okay, here I disagree. I don't think anti-Zionism is about freeing Palestinians. I think anti-Zionism is about dismantling Zionism. It's about dismantling the Zionist project. And the main victims of the Zionist project, the main people being oppressed by the Zionist project, are indeed Palestinians. But as I explained before, Zionists themselves are also victims of the Zionist project, and a lot of people around the world are victims of the Zionist project. For example, people who live in the US and whose political system is so concentrated in maintaining and supporting the Zionist project are also, in some sense, victims of the Zionist project. Okay, people in Germany who are protesting against the genocide and are being beat up by police officers because they are protesting against the Zionist project are also victims of Zionism. Okay, I don't think that the point is to liberate Palestinians. I think that the point is to dismantle the Zionist project, which would liberate Palestinians as well as all of the victims of the oppressive Zionist project.
Reinforcing
people who live in Lebanon and Syria too, people who live in Iran are victims of the Zionist project. Okay, it's not just Palestinians.
Exceptionalism, you're making that harder, not easier. Number two, don't engage in this absurd, Zionist adjacent thing where you police the anti-Zionist movement for anti-Semitism endlessly. Even if you do see real anti-Semitism, because ultimately it's just not that big of a deal.
Okay. Again, I disagree. Okay, I agree with the first part. If all you do is police the movement, the anti-Zionist movement, and call out anti-Semitism within the anti-Zionist movement, then of course, then you're not a real anti-Zionist, and your goal is not to dismantle the Zionist project. Okay, but yes, like someone wrote in the chat here, I don't think it's irrelevant. I don't think it's irrelevant when we see anti-Semitism within the anti-Zionist movement. I think that whenever we see a movement for liberation, justice, and equality being co-opted by people who do not believe in liberation, justice, and equality, people who actually want to use the principles and the energy of this movement to promote their own anti-liberationist, anti-justice, anti-equality goals, like people who are anti-Semites, when they co-opt this movement, then this is very detrimental to the movement. And I think that we should call it out. And I think that this is a danger to the movement. And now I want to speak about something that has been making me very, very depressed in the last few months, which is seeing a lot of right-wing grifters, like, for example, Nick Fuentes, like, for example, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, what's the name of the comedian? The transphobic comedian. I forgot his name. But a lot of people who are actually right-wing extremists. Dave Chappelle. Yeah, thank you. Dave Chappelle. A lot of people who are right-wing grifters, who are narcissists, who are supremacists, who do not care about Palestinians, who do not care about anyone other than themselves or their own in-group, co-opting the pro-Palestine movement and speaking out against Israel. Okay, but they're only doing it because they feel that it is popular within their base. They only do it to whitewash their own image. They only do it to increase their bank balance. They only do it for their own image. They're doing it. It's even more malignant than the anti-Zionist Jews. I think that it's very weird that Bad Empanada is putting so much emphasis on hypocrisy of anti-Zionist Jews who are anti-Zionist as a way to flatter their own egos and to promote their own interests, which I agree is something that happens to a certain extent, but for some reason he is giving a carte blanche to other people who are doing the same thing in a way that is much, much worse, in my opinion. In my opinion, what Tucker Carlson is doing is worse to the movement to free Palestine than what JVP is doing. I think it's worse. I think Tucker Carlson is coming from worse motives. I think he is more cynical. I think he is more detrimental to the movement than JVP. And I think it's weird. And Bad Empanada, please explain to me why this is what you're doing. I think it's weird that Bad Empanada is putting such an emphasis on JVP while excusing people like Tucker Carlson. Are you excusing people like Tucker Carlson or are you not? Bad Empanada, I didn't understand. I watched the entire video and I don't understand if you think that it's unnecessary and and even detrimental to the movement to call out people like Tucker Carlson. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. This is something that really bothers me.
Even if you do see real anti-Semitism, because ultimately it's just not that big of a deal.
I
Just
don't
as
think
like
it's- I
anti-German
don't think it's not that big of a deal.
sentiment in fighting Nazism wasn't that big of a deal. Just as like anti-white sentiment in fighting apartheid wasn't that big of a deal. Some of it's going to be there inevitably, but when you like specifically focus on it, you really make yourself seem a lot of the time.
No, I disagree. I disagree. One of the main weapons of Zionism again is different. The circumstances are different. One of the main weapons of Zionism is using this phenomenon called anti-Semitism, and so anti-Semitism and Zionism are two sides of the same coin. Whenever anti-Semitism is increased, Zionism wins. Whenever Zionism is increased, anti-Semitism wins. Whenever when Israel, such a weird position. I stopped Bad Empanada. Okay, so if the state of Israel is committing a genocide in the name of all Jews, then people who want to promote anti-Semitic conspiracy theories will use this fact to promote their own agenda. And then the state of Israel and other Zionists will use the fact that these anti-Zionists, anti-Semites are promoting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories to promote their own Zionist agenda. They work together, okay? Anti-Semitism and Zionism work together, and this is why we should call out anti-Semitism and not let it be part of the anti-Zionist movement. Letting anti-Semites take over and co-opt the messaging of the anti-Zionist movement is dangerous and detrimental to the anti-Zionist movement.
As if you're not here to free Palestinians and you're more here, again, for yourselves. Because anti-Semitism is certainly no priority right now, not even close. And many like anti-Zionist Jewish people, not even just anti-Zionist Jewish people, a lot of self-branded anti-Zionists just do nothing but police the movement for anti-Semitism.
Okay, so again, Bad Empanada is using rhetoric that I think is problematic because he's creating like this binary. Okay, either all you do is talk about anti-Semitism within the movement to free Palestine, or you don't talk about it at all. I think that there is a healthy level of talking about anti-Semitism within the movement to free Palestine. I sometimes talk about it. How much do I talk about it? Not a lot. When I feel that it is relevant, I talk about it. When I feel that it is irrelevant, I don't talk about it. Of course, some people would make it, the only issue and harp on it on and on and on and on and on. And this is problematic, and this shows that they're not really in it because they're anti-Zionist, but because they have other goals in mind. Okay. But the alternative is not to stop talking about it completely, and I think that this would be unhealthy as well.
Semitism. Like, it's like their main priority. Like, they're not even here primarily for the Palestinian people. They're primarily here to like do PR for Jewish people, to like do PR for the Jewish community. It's their main thing, because they've been indoctrinated by Jewish exceptionalism into thinking that, that's the most important thing ever, everywhere, all the time. The most important.
Again, I think that Bad Empanada is actually talking about actual people who are actually doing this too much. We're actually talking about anti-Semitism too much in a way that shows that they're not really anti-Zionist. They haven't deprogrammed themselves from Zionism enough yet, and they should take a step back, look at themselves honestly, and deprogram themselves more to not go into these places. I think Bad Empanada is talking about a real phenomenon, but I think he should be more precise when talking about it. And this is what I'm trying to do, talking about it in a more precise way.
Important thing that we need to be doing is attacking these notions, right? That like anti-Semitism is this special form of racism that we always need to be worried about and feel especially uncomfortable about, because it's not. It's just.
I agree. Anti-Semitism is just one form of racism, and all forms of racism are problematic. All forms of supremacy are problematic and oppressive.
Anti-Jewish racism, which is not that specifically concerning right now. A lot of you believe there's a massive rise in anti-Semitism. Why? Because you see like people like saying slurs on Twitter or something. I wish that for many other groups that was the extent of the racism that they face. I wish. There's so many other groups who would kill to be in the position that Jews are in, where they are in this like economically privileged position in society, socially privileged as well, politically privileged as well, uniquely coddled, if anything. And the main thing that they had to worry about was like a Nick Fuentes fan abusing them racially on social media. That would be like a luxury for everyone else. So, you guys need a reality check here.
Okay, so again, I almost completely agree, but not completely, and this bothers me, okay? I watched Bad Empanada's videos about whether or not there is a rise in anti-Semitism and in anti-Semitic incidents. I know the statistics that he brought, and I agree with him that there's not a uniquely dangerous problem of anti-Semitism, and that there's not a big rise in anti-Semitism. Where I disagree is that I do see something that is going on. I see people who want to push anti-Semitism, who want to push anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, who want to push hatred against Jews using Zionism, using what Zionism is doing to do so. I have been attacked by people who are anti-Semites. Is this the most important thing in the world? No. I barely speak about it. But it is important to me. And I'm speaking honestly now, okay? I'm afraid, okay? I'm afraid. As someone who does not consider themselves Jewish, but knows that a lot of other people consider me Jewish and would say that I'm Jewish and impose the Jewish identity on me, I see a lot of these people promoting hatred of Jews as Jews. And I'm scared because I know that the more Israel does horrific things, the more Israel influences or is an integral part of geopolitics, the more the interests of Israel are part of the interests of the US, of the UK, of Germany, and of global forces in general, the more these things will become powerful. And I know that this puts me personally in danger. Okay? And I'm just saying, honestly, I'm scared. I'm scared of this. I know that now Bad Empanada is right that Jews are not being systematically oppressed, okay? But I don't know what will happen in 5 or 10 years. And I'm scared. I'm scared, okay? Can I say that I'm scared? Can I say that it's important to me personally? Can I say that I think something should be done about this? No, it's not at the top of all priorities worldwide. No. But I think it's also important.
I have a video about how the anti-Semitism crisis is bullshit. There's no data backing it up. It's simply not that big of a deal. Anti-Semitism does exist, obviously, but so does anti-white racism. There's some people who legitimately hate whites and want to kill them. Sorry, but right now, anti-Semitism...
Yes, okay. Okay, but again, it's not the same thing, because whites have... They are numerically many more than Jews, okay? How many Jews are around the planet? Let's say 15, 20 million, right? If Jews are the new scapegoat of the world, then they can experience this systemic material violence and oppression. They could experience it. I'm not saying that they are experiencing it at the moment, but I'm saying that it is a danger, and I'm saying that we shouldn't just, sweep it under the rug. I think it's also important. I think we should be against all forms of supremacy, against all forms of oppression, against all forms of discrimination, against all racism, against all division and separation.
Anti-Semitism is on that level. Check the video. There is no anti-Semitism crisis. I've shown this before. So you guys need to just stop focusing so much on anti-Semitism.
I agree. There is a healthy level of focusing on it.
Because by doing so, and by policing the pro-Palestinian movement from within it, in the way that Zionists themselves do, you're helping Zionism. You're helping to spread their narratives.
Okay.
Then the narratives of this perennial Jewish peril, this perennial anti-Semitic violence.
Let's see if there... I'm getting super tired, and I told myself that I wouldn't go over 2 hours, and I already did go over 2 hours. Let's see if there are more important points that I want to address. Let's watch this.
Violent threats, always, all the time. You are doing like actual purity testing and doing that. Real, genuine purity testing, actual record behavior. I don't use that word lightly because it's used so terribly most of the time. Usually it's used to like justify abandoning the Palestinian people, but in this case, I'm using it to say that you are like detrimentally affecting the movement for their liberation. Don't do the work of the ADL for the ADL. Don't spread the narratives of the Zionist movement.
This I agree with.
Like me, like everyone else in the movement, if you are Jewish and you are an anti-Zionist, then you are here to help free Palestinians from Jewish supremacism. You're not here to like police others on pork.
No, okay. So many important points coming up.
Are an anti-Zionist, then you are here to help free Palestinians from Jewish supremacism.
No. I'm here to dismantle Zionism. One result of this would be that Palestinians are liberated from the oppression of Zionism. But I'm here as an anti-Zionist. I'm here to dismantle Zionism, also because I am negatively affected by Zionism. There's something that I like saying, which is that even if Palestinians did not exist, I would still be an anti-Zionist. You know why? Because I also experience Zionism as an oppressive system. I also hate Zionism just from my own selfish position, okay? And I want to dismantle Zionism just because it's a bad thing, not because I'm this savior of the Palestinians. This is also something that is problematic, feeling like I'm a savior of the Palestinians. No, I'm not here to liberate the Palestinians. I'm here to speak up against Zionism and to dismantle the Zionist project, because the Zionist project is an oppressive project. I'm here to dismantle all oppressive projects. I'm here to go against all forms of oppression, also against Zionism.
You're not here to like police others on talking about Jewish people in the correct way. You're not here to express your discomfort about how people talk about, the pervasive Zionism among the Jewish community and, the Jewish supremacist state of Israel that Muslims support. You're not here to tell us how special you are as a Jewish person and how everyone, by implication, needs to defer to your leadership and your especially special voice. You're not here to make it about you. You're here to be the same as everyone else. If you are to be a leader, if you are to be at the movement's head, it should be because of your merit.
Okay, so I think now it's kind of becoming repetitive. So yeah, I think this was what I expected, a good platform to touch on many important subjects that I wanted to talk about for a long time. I think this was a good context to talk about these things. Again, in general, I agree with what Bad Empanada is saying in this video, but I think that it's an important discussion to go more deeply into the nuances of this subject and to understand why all of this is happening, and to understand that it's not so simplistic as he describes it, because otherwise we would not be able to understand how the Zionist system operates, and therefore we will not be able to dismantle it. I think that the ways that Bad Empanada is being imprecise here is, it's not like, it's important to speak about these things. Tamar is saying, say your main point. The only consistent position is anti-oppression, anti-hierarchy. Yes. Okay. What should be the takeaway from this video and from this analysis? In my opinion, what was the main thing that I wanted to say is that anti-Zionism should not be a principle within itself. It should not be something that is the only thing that you are doing. Anti-Zionism should be a corollary of being anti-oppression in general. If you're anti-Zionist because you feel that it's beneficial to you politically and beneficial to your bank account, like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, then I don't know. Your anti-Zionism is not just superficial, but it's the opposite of true anti-Zionism. If you are anti-Zionist because you believe that Palestine is an Islamic land, okay, then you're not really anti-Zionist in the deep sense. I think that the only way to be anti-Zionist is the deep sense, is if your anti-Zionism is a special case of you being against all oppression. And this is the way that I'm an anti-Zionist. And I hope that all people who define themselves as anti-Zionist will look at the reason for why they're anti-Zionist and will say, oh, why am I an anti-Zionist? Because Zionism is an oppressive project and because I'm against all oppression. And then they will look at their own participation in oppressive systems, like Bad Empanada, for example. Bad Empanada, why are you against Zionism? I believe that Bad Empanada is against Zionism, is an anti-Zionist because Zionism is an oppressive system. And you are against oppression, right, Bad Empanada? And now I think you should take it one step further. You should go more deeply. Say, okay, so I am against all oppression, including oppression of non-human animals. So, Bad Empanada, if you want to have a real discussion about something important, if you actually watch this video, then please, the most important subject that I want to talk to you about, George, your name is George, right? The most important subject that I want to talk to you about is the subject of your own participation in hierarchical systems, in oppressive systems, specifically your participation in the system of human supremacy, whose result is the Holocaust of hundreds of billions of non-human animals all around the planet. Okay? So I think, George, that you should look at yourself. Okay? Don't stop criticizing others. It's good that you're criticizing others, but also look at yourself. Also look at your own participation in oppressive systems and dismantle the oppressive systems that are still inside you. Do the process of deprogramming. It's very easy for you, George, to be an anti-Zionist. You know why? Because you weren't born into the Zionist cult. You don't. I think you do pay some prices for your political positions, okay? But in the end, I think the price that you pay for being anti-Zionist is quite marginal compared to the price someone like me, who was born into the Zionist cult, pays for being an anti-Zionist, okay? And it's weird that okay. Careful, BE fans are intense. They will come for you. Okay. I am afraid that they will come for me, but this is important. This is important. George, you are not vegan. This shows me that you are not willing to pay a very, very small price for going against oppression. You are not even willing to pay the price of eating a tomato instead of the corpse of a cow who was murdered for your benefit. Okay, here's a question. Which is more difficult? Being vegan or being an anti-Zionist who was born when you were born into the Zionist cult, into the Israeli faction of the Zionist cult? Who is the most qualified person to answer this question? Again, not to toot my own horn, but I personally happen to be the most qualified person, or one of the most qualified people on the face of this planet to answer the question of which is more difficult, being vegan or being an anti-Zionist who was born into the Zionist cult. You know why? Because I'm both. I've experienced both. I'm one of the only people on this planet who experienced both of these so heavily. And I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that being vegan is a piece of cake compared to being anti-Zionist from within the Zionist cult. The prices you pay for being vegan are minuscule compared to the prices you pay for being an anti-Zionist within the Zionist cult. George, you are not willing to pay the minuscule prices that are required for being vegan. You are participating in a system of supremacy and oppression that has horrible effects. You agree with this. You said in a video that vegans are right. You agree with what I'm saying now. You agree with this. And you're not willing to pay the minuscule price that is required of you to stop participating in this system, to stop collaborating with this system. This is evidence that if you, George, happen to be born into the Zionist cult, you would probably not be willing to pay the prices, the much, much, much heavier prices that are required for going against the Zionist cult from within the Zionist cult. I think, Bad Empanada, that the evidence suggests that if you happen to be born Jewish or Jewish Israeli, you would be a liberal Zionist. This is what I think. And I think that you being vegan that you not being vegan proves this. Change my mind. Bad Empanada, I want to challenge you. Come and talk to me. Come and have a true, open discussion with me about your own participation in oppressive systems, specifically the oppressive system of human supremacy that is currently causing the biggest Holocaust in the history of planet Earth that you are part of. Come talk to me about this and let me explain to you why, by your own arguments, you must go vegan and you must be an activist against the oppression of non-human animals. If you don't come and talk to me about this, then you are proving that you can talk a big talk, but you cannot walk the walk. And with this, I want to finish this episode of, I don't know what it is, my live streams on the Hebrew Canaanite. Again, I tried something quite different today. This is something that I never tried before. And again, I'm a bit scared about the implications of what I did today. But I think it was important nonetheless. I hope you found this engaging and interesting, and I hope this made you think and learn. Okay, see you next time on the Hebrew Canaanite channel. Free Palestine, free the entire planet, free everyone. Bye bye.